Hey everybody, it's Drew Weber, and I want to talk with you today in regards to the Orca screen reader and how to get into its preferences in the BT Speak Pro. So I've got the BT Speak Pro loaded, and we've got desktop mode loaded as well. So when I switch over to the desktop mode, we're not going to hear that load. Go ahead and visit the previous segment to go ahead and understand that time frame, kind of how that all works out. I have Deck Talk loaded in both of these now. And in that respect, I want to let you know that we don't have Deck Talk when we come in from a brand new purchase of the BT Speak Pro. And I wanted to kind of show you how you can change some preferences in the Orca screen reader. And so what I'm going to do now, since I'm here in the tablet mode, I'm going to jump over to desktop. We're going to do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chord with a .8.
Desktop mode.
And here we are now in desktop mode. So sometimes what I notice is that I have to go, for whatever reason, into another window before the Orca preferences will launch. So let me just go into the sound window real quick. So we're going to do an O chord for options.
Left applications menu.
And we're going to just drive down with our .4 chord.
Accessory, Chrome, graphic, internet, office, other, program, sound and video menu.
All right, we'll hit enter or .8 here.
Return, sound.
And we'll hit enter here.
Return, desktop. Applet sound preferences dialog.
Okay.
Output volume colon.
So since we're here,
page up. 51978.
I'll just turn this down a little bit. So what I'm doing right now, we have a couple of options to turn this down. We can either do a .1 chord, which is going to go ahead and turn it down in very small increments.
50978. 49978.
Or we can do a page up, which is going to be a 2-3 space bar. So
Page up. 42982.
all right, that lessens the distortion just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead here and do what's an Alt F4. So Z chord 1, 3, 5, 6 with space is going to be our escape. Our Alt F4 is going to be very similar. We're just going to add .7 into that mix. So 1, 3, 5, 6 space .7.
F4 desktop.
And
Icon view.
we're back on the desktop. So now I'm going to go ahead and do a 1, 3 space 5. That would be an O chord, and I'll add .7 in the mix.
General page tag.
And now we have the Orca preferences launched. So if you find that you do that O chord plus 7 and it doesn't work for whatever reason, go ahead and jump into maybe the sound menu. Jump into sound from the options and then go ahead Alt F4 out of that and come right back in here with the O chord plus .7. All right, so if you've never used Braille before, let me kind of explain a bit of how it works. And so we have, of course, our up and down arrows. We have .1 chord and we have .4 chord. That's going to take us up and down respectively. Then we have our .3 chord, and then we have our .6 chord, and that's going to take us left and right respectively. So where we're at right now is on a list of pages in a dialog. So in Windows, what we'd normally do is, if we're in this environment, in a settings window, we could shift tab to the list of pages, and then we could hit right arrow. We could also hit control tab to go between pages. And so it's kind of the same thing. We're going to be on the list of tabs, and we're going to go to the right. So I'm going to do a .6 chord.
Force page tab.
Now I'm going to do a .3 chord to refresh our memory on what we have here first. .3 chord is going to take us back to the left.
General page tab.
So general page is our first page here. As I go to the right with .6 chord,
Force page tab.
we have our voice page.
Speech page tab.
Then we have our speech page. I'm still going to the right with .6 chord.
Braille page tab.
We have our Braille page.
Echo page tab.
We have our echo page, which has some information how we want the actual key echo to work.
Key bindings page tab.
Then we have some key bindings. I haven't dove into this too much as of yet.
Pronunciation page tab.
Then we have some pronunciations. Think of this as like a pronunciation dictionary, I believe.
Text attributes page tab.
Text attributes.
General page tab.
And we auto wrap back over to general here. So what we can do, of course, is tab through this dialog, and our tab in Braille is going to be a .45 chord, so 4-5 in space. Our shift tab is going to be a B, or dots 1, 2 in space, so a B chord. I'm going to move over to the right to the voice page.
Voice Voice page tab.
And this is how we're going to go ahead and set some of our voice options. So as I said earlier, we're going to, I believe, drop into this in eSpeak. And if we want to change it over to Deck Talk, we can definitely do that here within the Orca preferences. So I'm going to go ahead and tab through this dialog.
Tab. Voice type settings panel. Voice type : combo box. Default.
All right, so I hit tab, which is 4 or 5 chord. Now we're in a combo box where we have default set. I don't want to change that yet, but when I do want to make a change, I'll talk about how we drive into those combo boxes. So I'm going to tab again.
Tab speech system : combo box. Speech dispenser.
We don't also want to make any changes to that, so we're going to tab again.
Tab speech synthesizer : combo box. DTK-generic.
All right, so here's where the bread meets the butter here, right? So we've got our DT Talk, our Deck Talk generic. So if we want to go back up in the list here from Deck Talk, we can do a up arrow or .1 chord. We're going to land on default synthesizer. It does take just a little bit of time for that to happen. So I'm going to go back down here to Deck Talk.
Speed-A. DTK-generic.
What I'm doing is hitting down arrow or .4 chord to drive down my list of speech synthesizers or down through this combo box. So now .1 chord, I'm going to go back up and I want you to hear what we have as far as our boundary sound if we're at the top or the bottom of the list. And this is desktop wide, so we can get used to the sound showing us, hey, we're at the top or the bottom of something. So I'm going to go ahead and use up arrow .1 chord.
Speed-A. Default synthesizer.
And it sounds kind of like a water drop. So that's where we get. So if we come into this box on eSpeak, then we can, even if we come in on default synthesizer, we can down arrow or .4 chord to get to our Deck Talk.
Speed-A. DTK-generic.
And that's where I want to be. We can see if there's anything else in this list. There's not. So Deck Talk is at the bottom. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to go ahead and hit tab or a 4 or 5 chord.
Tab language : combo box.
En for English. I'm cool with this. I'm going to continue to tab through.
Tab person : combo box. DTK-generic default voice.
So this is, I believe, Paul, but it just says our default generic voice here. So I'm cool with this. This is the Deck Talk voice that I would normally use.
Tab capitalization style : combo box. None.
I'm okay with that. I'll leave it.
Tab rate : horizontal slider 27. 27.
So here's our rate. Now, I think we're probably going to want, well, you get to be the judge, but I wanted to slow this down a little bit for the demo. So this is where I came to do this. And now we can, of course, kind of do the same thing that we would do in a volume slider. We can .1 chord to go ahead and
26. 25.
decrease that. Or we can do a .4 chord to
26. 27.
increase it. Now, if we want to page up, we can with a 2-3 chord.
Page up. 17.
All right. Or page down with a 5-6 chord.
Page down. 27.
All right. So I'm going to leave it there at 27, 27. I'm going to go ahead and I have changed some other things that may normally read you 27. I've told it to take my numbers and read them digits. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to tab through here.
Pitch : horizontal slider 0.9.
So
0.9.
this is the same type of slider environment that we were just in. I lowered my pitch quite a bit because it was pretty high and I enjoy the voice sounding maybe as close to eloquence as I can get it because I'm a big eloquence user. So I went ahead and lowered my pitch quite a bit there. We can go ahead and tab.
Volume : horizontal slider 4.0.
Now here's the interesting thing. Volume, I haven't really noticed that this changes a lot. Sometimes I think we may have to apply the change to actually hear the changes, but volume is one of those things that we change that system wide. We can go ahead and page up. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't experimented with this too much, but let's see. We're at 4.0 now. Let's page up with 2-3 chord.
Page up. 3.0. Page up. 2. Page up. 1. Page up. 0. Page up.
So I don't notice any difference. I'm going to go back where I had it. I had turned it up.
Page down. 4.0.
But yours is going to be in a landing in a different mark there. That's okay.
Global voice settings panel. Break speech into chunks between pauses. Checkbox checked.
Break speech into chunks between pauses. Interesting. I have not looked at this as of yet, but I'll tell you, I'm going to uncheck it.
Space. Not checked.
because I want to see if it does make things read just a little bit quicker. I've noticed when I've been on the web and in Chrome, and just around the operating system on the desktop mode, that things kind of get a bit sluggish in regards to the speech. Maybe that's why. Let's continue to tab.
Speak multicase strings as words checkbox not checked.
Keep going.
Speak numbers as digits checkbox checked.
That's one that I had changed. That was not checked before.
Help push button.
We have help.
Apply push button.
And we have apply. I'll go ahead and hit space on this.
Space. Screen reader settings reloaded.
All right, let's go ahead and tab and see if we're still in this dialogue.
Cancel push button.
We are.
OK push tab voice page tab.
So now we're on the voice page. So that really, in kind of a quick nutshell there, is how to go ahead and change your speech synthesizer if you want. If you're normally using eSpeak around the basic or tablet mode, you may not need to change much there. But if you're like me and want to use Deck Talk, that's how you go ahead and make those changes. So let's go ahead here and we're going to look through a bit more of this just to go ahead and showcase kind of what it does and what it has. I'm not going to be able to comment on everything. I haven't made a lot of changes here, but we're going to go back to the left. We're going to go back left page with .3 chord.
General page tab.
And we're just going to go ahead and tab through this. And I probably, again, won't make a lot of comments. What we'll see on this general page is there seems to be like a multi-pages of this dialogue, meaning inside the general page itself. So we'll go ahead and look at some of these here just by tabbing through.
Tab. Keyboard layout panel. Keyboard layout laptop selected radio button. Progress bar updates panel. Speak updates checkbox checked.
So I want to kind of talk about this for a second, and what kind of caught me was like updates. What are we talking about? Again, this is a progress bar update. So if we're like, for example, I was on my NAS drive earlier and copying a kind of a big music folder, and so this would be how we change some of those parameters for how progress is spoken. I'm going to continue to tab here.
Braille updates checkbox not checked. Beep updates checkbox not checked.
Still in regards to the progress.
Tap frequency left parent X right parent colon 10 spin button.
So this is every 10-second frequency that it is going to speak if there has been a progress update.
Tap applies to colon combo box application. Mouse panel. Present tooltips checkbox not checked. Speak object under mouse checkbox not checked. Tap time and date panel. Time format colon combo box 12:49:37 p.m. Tap date format colon combo box 04/06/2024. Tap say all panel. Enable rewind and fast forward and say all checkbox not checked. Enable structural navigation and say all checkbox not checked. Announce language and say all checkbox checked. Announce forms and say all checkbox checked. Announce landmarks and say all checkbox checked. Announce lists and say all checkbox checked. Announce panels and say all checkbox checked. Announce tables and say all checkbox checked. Tap say all by colon combo box sentence. Tap profiles panel. Active profile colon combo box default. Tap load push button. Tap save as push button. Tap remove push button. Tap start dash up profile colon combo box default. Tap help push button. Apply push button. Tap cancel push button. OK push button. Tap general page tab.
All right, so I did all that with tab, so I just went through that entire dialogue. Now, if we wanted to change things like radio buttons, we could use our down arrow. So I'm going to move to the next tab with our .6 chord.
Voice page tab.
We've already reviewed that, so we're going to go further with .6 chord.
Speech page tab.
All right, so interesting. We have a voice and a speech tab. Let's see what this one has to offer. I'm going to start tabbing through it.
Tab. Enable speech checkbox checked. Tap verbosity panel. Verbosity verbose selected radio button. Tap punctuation level panel. Punctuation level most selected radio button. Tap spoken context panel. Only speak displayed text checkbox not checked. Speak blank lines checkbox checked. Speak indentation and justification checkbox not checked. Speak misspelled dash word indicator checkbox checked. Speak object mnemonics checkbox not checked. Speak child position checkbox not checked. Speak tutorial messages checkbox not checked. Speak description checkbox checked. System messages are detailed checkbox checked. Speak colors as names checkbox checked. Announce language during navigation checkbox checked. Announce forms during navigation checkbox checked. Announce landmarks during navigation checkbox checked. Announce list during navigation checkbox checked. Announce panels during navigation checkbox checked. Announce tables during navigation checkbox checked. Speak full row and guide tables checkbox checked. Speak full row and document tables checkbox checked. Speak full row and spreadsheets checkbox not checked. Help push button. Apply push button. Cancel push button. OK push button. Speech page tab.
Again, went through all of those with tab, just looking at the options. Now, you may think, hey, some of those sound really similar to what we heard previously on another tab. So I kind of want to break that down, right? So we had a lot of those for the say all. So if we were in a say all environment with the ER chord, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and spacebar, it would announce a lot of those, or you could actually change whether they were announced or not. And this is just the navigation. So if we're just navigating through with tab or down arrow, etc., will it be announcing a lot of these different kind of markers so that we can understand, especially in a web page layout, where we're at. So I think it's really neat that we have both of those options for both of those reading contexts. Let's go to the next tab with .6 chord.
Braille page tab.
All right, so here we are on a Braille tab, and we'll just tab through it. Now we have Braille input. We don't have, at least natively, a Braille display connected, but of course that is an option for you. So we'll see what this one has to offer.
Tab. Enable Braille support checkbox checked. Display settings panel. Disable end of line symbol checkbox not checked. Abbreviated role names checkbox not checked. Enable word ramp checkbox not checked. Enable contracted Braille checkbox checked. Contraction table : combo box U.S. Flash message settings panel. Enable flash messages checkbox checked. Messages are detailed checkbox checked. Messages are persistent checkbox not checked. Duration left x right 5 spin button. Verbosity panel. Verbosity verbose selected radio button. Selection indicator panel. Selection indicator .7 and 8 selected radio button. Hyperlink indicator panel. Hyperlink indicator .7 and 8 selected radio button. Help push button. Apply push button. Cancel push button. OK push button. Braille page tab.
So we had some similarities there. This is going to be how things are presented on a Braille display. And previously we heard how things would be presented in speech and how things would be read out to us aloud. So just to kind of understand how those, though they seem very similar, are different as far as how they're going to be presented. So it is, to my understanding right now, and I want to make this comment here on the Braille tab, if I'm off on this, then I would be more than happy to come back and showcase some of these things. I'm still fairly new with the device in the Pro mode. And so what I'll say is I feel like that we can, in regards to Brailing in, use grade 1 Braille or computer Braille. And so even though we have the contractions set or whatnot here in this dialogue that was read, we're not able to Braille in grade 2 into a web address bar or document or anything of that nature as of now. At least that's my understanding. We'll go ahead and continue to the right here on our tabs with .6 chord.
Echo page tab.
So here we are in regards to options regarding key echo. Let's go ahead and tab through this with 4/5 chord.
Tab. Enable key echo checkbox checked. Enable alphabetic keys checkbox checked. Enable numeric keys checkbox checked. Enable punctuation keys checkbox checked. Enable space checkbox checked. Enable modifier keys checkbox checked. Enable function keys checkbox checked. Enable action keys checkbox checked. Enable navigation keys checkbox not checked. Enable not-spacing diacritical keys checkbox not checked. Enable echo by character checkbox not checked. Enable echo by word checkbox not checked. Enable echo by sentence checkbox not checked. Help push button. Apply push button. Cancel push button. OK push button. Echo page tab.
So we have a lot of options here, and again, I really am pleased to see how much flexibility there really is with the Orca screen reader and how we are presented with echo options. So, when it says things like space and function keys, etc., are those going to be read out to us when we press them? Are they going to be echoed back through speech, or are they not? So kind of something I haven't really seen before. And I'm pretty strong JAWS user. I haven't seen that flexibility, and so that's what it's sounding like it means to me in regards to those echo options. Let's move to the right again.
Key bindings page tab.
All right, a key bindings page, and this is something that I do want to dive into, but I haven't really as of yet. We're going to go ahead and tab through this dialog.
Tab. Screen reader modifier D left paren S right paren colon. Combo box caps line log. Shift line log.
I'm going to go ahead and stop here and say that I did see in reading a help file where there were some things, and I believe that they may have been on this page, that we wouldn't want to change because of how the Braille is programmed to interact with Orca. So definitely go ahead and read that desktop help section, and I believe desktop review as well. I think they're called desktop navigation and desktop review in the help files. And there are some things that we shouldn't change to make sure this navigates the best with our Braille input that we have set up right now. Just wanted to make that comment. Let's continue to tab through here.
Tab. Default collapsed modified checkbox not checked level 1. Help push button. Apply push button. Cancel. OK push. Key bindings page tab.
So I think we can dive further in there by going into some combo boxes and getting a little bit more advanced, possibly adding some things. Again, showcasing what our options are here by tabbing through. Let's go ahead and go right again.
Pronunciation page tab.
And here we are on a pronunciation page. Let's go ahead and look through this by tabbing through the dialog.
Tab. Pronunciation dictionary panel. Table with 0 rows, 2 columns. New entry push button. Delete push button. Help push button. Apply push button. Cancel push. OK push. Pronunciation page tab.
So this is going to be really a cool option here that we have, or a cool dialogue. So for example, my last name is Weber. It's Weber. And a lot of times it will be pronounced by a screen reader as Weber. Not a big deal, but here we can go and change that if we do have something like that, where maybe our name is mispronounced or something, a word special to us. We can go ahead and add those pronunciations. I may come back and do another demo on that at a later time and really showcase how that all works. Let's go ahead and right arrow now to get to the next page or tab.
Text attributes page tab.
All right, text attributes. Let's go ahead and tab through this.
Tab. Text attributes panel. Tab reset push button.
I'm going to go ahead and shift tab. I didn't allow it to read all that was there. So 1, 2 chord, a B chord. This will showcase how we can shift tab.
Table with 3, 6 rows, 4 columns. Size, speed, checkbox, checked mark, and Braille checkbox checked.
So this is going to be in regards to the text attributes, how they're presented in speech and Braille, if we need any additional information on those. So if something is bolded, and I'm just using an example here that may be an option, we can possibly have that spoken different than text that is not in a bold font. I'm going to go ahead and continue to tab through here.
Tab reset push button. Adjust selected attribute panel. Move to top push button. Move up 1 push button. Move down 1 push button. Move to button push button. Braille indicator panel. Braille indicator not selected radio button. Help push button. Apply push button. Cancel push button. OK push button. Text attributes page tab.
Lot to jump into here in our Orca screen reader options. And again, I love how flexible this seems to be for us. Let's continue to go to the right here, see if there's any more tabs that we can look at.
General page tab.
We're back around to the top here of the pages on the Orca preferences. I'm going to go ahead and exit this with, we have a couple ways. I was just going to say I was going to Alt F4. However, if we've made a change, let's go ahead and Shift Tab with a B chord back to OK, because we've already hit Apply when we had made those changes.
OK push button.
All right, I'm going to hit space here.
Space. Screen reader's desktop. Icon view.
All right, so it was going to tell us that it was the screen reader settings were loaded. It did move to the desktop, so we are done looking at Orca and its preferences.